Hello and welcome to Underqualified Thoughts. This is a podcast where me and my brother-in-law have conversations that stem from our daily lives. Expect authentic, relationship-building discussions that time capsule our early years of our families, careers, and our pastimes. This is episode 4, if I get that right, 4
Correct.
of season 2. And let's go ahead and jump into this. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm thrown off. At the end of the last episode, you told me that with super excited tone that you can't wait to flip the script and ask me a ton of questions, and I have no clue what you're going to do.
Flip the script. That's an educator term as well. That's crazy.
Did I trigger you?
Yeah, that got to me there. Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to get to it in this episode, but we'll do our best. But first off, I'd like to just kind of touch base. It's been a couple weeks since we've talked to you about your job and how everything's going with Lily. In our, I think it was like season 1, end of the season, or maybe it was beginning of season 2, first episode, we talked briefly about how the transition into corporate life again has been a little bit more challenging, maybe than expected. Talk to us a little bit more about that today and how that's been for you.
I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty anticlimactic. I guess I could have seen that one coming, but that's okay. There's definitely a lot to talk about. I'm with you. I don't think we've talked about Lily since the first season, and if I remember correctly, that the first episode of season 2 was talking about my job, the first day on the job. So a lot has changed since then, and I suppose the biggest thing that's changed is that the job itself hasn't gotten any better, but my perspective around it has, thanks to a lot of prayer and conversations with people who have been in similar situations to me, or a few conversations with people who are currently at Wells and have recounted their similar journey of starting there, has helped me to basically become more patient and understand that I'm not going to be able to provide value immediately, and that I just need to, I don't know how to phrase it. I guess, obviously I just need to not put my worth in the fact that, whether I can or cannot provide value to the team, and just patiently go through the process of learning, listening, which is very difficult. It's very difficult to sit in meetings, for me at least, where there's a lot of words and terms that you don't understand, and actively be engaged and pay attention and soak in information that way. Do you relate to that? Or are you
Well, I mean, you said, do I relate to that within my current work, or?
I mean, how you learn. I was kind of talking about, right now, thankfully, I've had a few one-on-ones recently where I've talked to my direct report and then the manager above them. And they've given me some practical tips they've given me software and trainings that Wells Fargo has that I can go through to tactilely, I don't know if I'm using that word right, but to actually learn it by interacting with the material versus sitting in a meeting and just listening to it. And so my question there for you was, do you relate to that? Do you struggle to just sit and listen and take in information rather than being able to interact with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like meetings. I think that if meetings are longer than 30 minutes, it's almost pointless. A large percentage of the meetings that I'm in currently in education are something that could have been sent in a email.
Classic. That meeting could have been an email.
Yeah. Or it's something that really just applies to the Kool-Aid drinkers of the room. Meaning the people that just hands and feet, they're sold out educators, they're doing everything and anything, they're putting in 80 hours a week. I had a coworker earlier this week joke to me, I told our administration on the way out, I said, I got my 40 hours, I'm out. And then one of my coworkers that's just a regular school teacher said, I do 60 hours minimum. And it was kind of like a bragging, look at me. And I was like, good for you. I don't really know how to take that. But when it comes to those meetings, a lot of that is you're either the 60 plus hour a week person, you love everything you're doing, or you just hate it, or you don't have a life outside of school, or you fall into my camp, which is this could have been an email. Most of the time it is. And I do read my emails. Like that's always the argument. So yeah, in terms of the tactile sensation of like actually working with a program, I don't know if there's really anyone, maybe people that are just bookworms that love reading and listening. But most people, as far as I've seen within my, like, I mean, I teach programs. So like within my class, it's like most kids just need to get into it, work on it, figure it out. And then down the road, as they have questions, research if they want to learn, listen to me, share. For me, it's, just I need to start the program and figure it out.
Yeah. I think you're right that there's the majority of people, when they're able to get their hands on something or learn it in community, it sticks more. But obviously, there are people out there who do really well just reading and teaching themselves, which, to be fair, I've done in the past in college. Like in college, I didn't really do a great job listening to professors and getting much out of the lecture. I would have to go back to the notes, read them over, teach myself that way. But I guess a clarification I need to make now is I like meetings. I do not want this, like, I don't just want a bunch of emails to read through. Like I took this job and I'm interested in product management, as we've talked about, the high level of collaboration. Like I want to be sitting in a meeting with people, like having like the small chit chat beforehand where I get to know someone, like learn about their past and, build a relationship there, as well as just be able to bounce ideas off each other. Which the problem right now with meetings is that obviously there's a lot of acronyms. There's a lot of goals that the company is working towards that I'm not aware of or have just become aware of. And basically the analogy of like you can't see the forest through the trees, if I'm going to repurpose that analogy, all I know right now is like I know one or two trees. And so when someone's talking about like something at the forest level, I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I only know how to climb this one tree. And so a lot of those, that goes over my head. And then what's even more difficult for me then is having the discipline. We're not in person, or I'm not in person, as I've talked about. Most of my team's in St. Louis or Minneapolis. And so then I have the internet at my reach. And if I'm bored in this meeting and I don't understand anything, I have to have a self-discipline to not like go scrolling through my email or reading articles online or just doing something to keep my mind active. And that's something that I'm really, really having a hard time with right now, is paying attention in meetings where I'm not in person, my camera isn't on, and I don't know what's being talked about.
Yeah, I guess I kind of forgot that you're not. When you said meetings, I was envisioning like people around a table and like working on stuff.
That's what I want.
And it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, he's remote, or I mean, he's virtual. He's in the office, and everyone else is scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're in the spirit of clarification, if there's any future employers that are listening to this, it's not a dodge against the community and the collaboration and that meeting situation. It's not that. It's when you pull together 50 to 60 people in one room and say, hey, we're going to talk down at you about this one topic, and we hope that you align with it. This meeting is less of a meeting and more of a sermon about something that I don't care about. This department meetings are similar because within the education sector, there's admin in the room talking down to us. Rarely is it something that they even really care about what our thoughts are on the matter. That's been my experience.
They're kind of just passing along the information that you need to follow along with.
Yeah, or do. We have a whole school meeting with the staff this Monday. It's a teacher work day, and it's slotted for like the whole day. And we're just going to be in the media center library and we're just going to be talked down to about what's coming down the pipeline, so to say. A new thing, a new agenda.
So it's basically
And so,
it's not like a meeting, it's more like a town hall where everyone gets together and
yeah, yeah.
do you at least get to ask questions at the end, or is it just, you're basically just taking in
Yeah.
information?
Like you can ask questions, but your questions are just meant to be answered. They aren't to be adding value, or if you're questioning why or how we're doing it, they already know why. They already know how. They're just wanting you to know what it is so that you can take it and go and do it. Good news. I'll provide an example of a good meeting. The school is looking to change the schedule for next year. I don't know, mention that they've done this before and it's never really worked out, but they always invite people to come and sit with them and meet to discuss what is best for the school. And they are actually open-minded. So that's a good example of like a meeting that's purposeful, that you can bring value to share your thoughts. It's really, really unfortunate, and I don't mean to turn this conversation to me, but the majority of the time they don't take the insights that the staff brings. And so I guess that's the good question for you within the corporate world. Do you see that you can actually make arguably systemic change within the organization?
Yeah, I don't know at this point like what massive levels of change that I can make. The thing so to tie into what you said, what's draining about your meetings is what's draining about mine right now. Yours is because what you talked about, they're just giving you information, they're telling you to now go do it, not, hey, let's have a conversation about what we're going to do. So that's draining because it is draining just to be sitting down, not being mentally engaged, just kind of listening to information that you're either not really interested or you don't really understand. And on my side of that is there's a lot of information coming in. I'm sitting down in the chair. I'm not an active participant in the conversation. I'm just like kind of trying to understand what's going on, just taking the information. And it is draining because it's not enjoyable. It's not engaging. It's not, and that's nothing to the people who are presenting or having the meeting. They're all active participants. They're all going through, getting their stuff done, offering feedback back and forth. But I'm not an active participant at the moment. I do believe that there's very much so a chance as I learn more, I'll be able to be an active participant. I know that I'll have the ability to make change in how our team interacts with others, like the collaboration that we do. Like that's pretty clear. Like obviously I can come up with habits, come up with practices that I then pass on to the next person who comes after me. As far as, I don't know how much red tape there is at this point. I don't know how much I'm going to be limited. If I have a creative idea and I want to run with it, how much I'm going to be halted by whatever, the practices that are before me, the regulations, the limits of regulation for the industry in finance, or the limits for the software and the technology that we have. So I don't have a full answer to that question yet, but I definitely believe that I'll be able to have more of an impact than what I'm doing right now. It's difficult in this season to imagine being able to have an impact, but that's another one of those perspective things of like, once things start to click in my role, I'll be able to speak up. I'll be able to be a contributor.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. It'd be interesting now to kind of, in the last episode, we talked a little bit about some other cool ideas and things that I'd love to talk with you about. But before we can get there, I'd like to kind of revisit, and if they call it, transition back to your job, your family, how the two have been coexisting together well, and how there's been growth along the way. The last time, again, we talked about Lily was quite a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
So how has it been on the home front?
Yeah. One last thought about the job, which I think would easily transition to this, was talking about being able to have things click. I had a meeting with my manager, and it was both encouraging and frustrating at the same time. She told me on average it takes people 6 to 9 months for things to start clicking in the role that I'm in. And when I heard that, it was a bit of like frustration. I was like, oh my goodness, that's, so far away. I've been here for a month. In the best case scenario, I have to do this 6 times over. And that was frustrating. But the positive side of it was I was understanding like, oh, there's grace. They don't expect me to hit the ground running and have all these things understood and like apply myself to the upteenth degree to figure out everything in like a day, which has been helpful at home because it's made it that, if I was moving 1,000,000 miles an hour at my job, I would be there for longer. I'd be doing more and it'd be taking more of my mental capacity. Right now, I have the flexibility. Like, one of the things we needed to figure out, this was a fun wrinkle, and we'll answer your question. So, Caitlin's going back to work in 2 days. She's had 14 weeks of maternity leave, which has been like a massive blessing. Like, the fact that her company gave her that much time off is amazing. But now that she's going back, and I've already been back to work, we started looking for like what our options are. We don't have a daycare because Caitlin wasn't interested in that. So we started looking for a nanny, and boy, did my head spin trying to figure out how much to pay a nanny, how much of our budget that takes up. That was a whole, we don't have enough time. We don't have enough podcasts in the world to talk about all the anxiety and confusion and everything that went through that. But so we get it settled. We find a nanny, which was an amazing blessing. Like, Caitlin was posting on Facebook groups and reaching out. And then someone from a local church here in Charlotte reached out and wanted to be her nanny. And so we met her. She was great. It was an awesome way that God provided for us. But then quickly, I was doing our taxes this year. And I learned, thankfully, I came across something that's called a dependent care credit. And I was like, what the heck is that? Basically, you can get a tax credit based off the amount of money that you pay for childcare, whether it be a nanny, whether it be daycare, whether it be whatever. And then all of a sudden my brain just went, oh my goodness, if you can get a credit for this, you have to confirm how you're paying this person, I bet. And so I start doing all this research, and then all of a sudden I find out that, just paying your nanny over Venmo is paying them under the table. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so that then set my head spinning, because I was like, how much is it going to cost to like run payroll, like whether it's a cost of time or a cost of money. And so that basically all that long backstory to say is that Caitlin did a lot of the research herself, which I really appreciate, and that made my job a lot easier. But because my job is not like incredibly stressful and I'm not needed for like 40, 50, 60 hours a week, I'm able to spend, pockets of time between meetings and between like when I'm teaching myself stuff to do things, to get things done, like do our taxes, figure out what it means to actually pay a nanny and not pay her under the table. Figure out like what we're going to cook for the week, and like, so I can go and run and get groceries on the way home from work, like things like that. It's a very long-winded answer. I'm a very long-winded person, but that's just one area where I'm thankful that I have a new job that has a long build up, and I'm not in, if I was in my old role, I'd probably have a similar amount of time. But I'd have more work to do. Like, I'd be going and have less time to try and figure this stuff out. So it definitely is a benefit and a blessing that I have a role that's not incredibly demanding of me right now, because I don't have a good enough grasp on it yet to be demanding.
That's very interesting. We're talking a lot about time, and you put in your hours, and then you come home. This is just a fun question for people to kind of resonate with, if whoever's listening, if they don't have kids or if they do have kids, to compare. How much discretionary time do you think you have every week?
I don't know. I can make a guess, but basically right now I've been using more discretionary time than I should have. You know, as we mentioned, Lily has been an incredibly fussy baby, and joy of all joys, there were 3 days in a row. It was Sunday night through Tuesday night. We thought everything was fixed. We thought the whole 3 month, like at 3 months they change and get easier, was a real thing. It was awesome. Like, it felt like we were normal humans again. And then she immediately, Tuesday night, went back down into her nosedive of going back to being fussy and difficult to manage. And so, as far as how much discretionary time that I have, so to be fair, right now I've been going rock climbing 2 to 3 times a week, and we've been filming this you got me, recording this podcast. But outside of that, like, we have the occasional one-off things where we'll have dinner with friends or go to an event or something, but our discretionary time is so much less than it used to be. Like, there's so many evenings now where I'm coming home and it's like I have to cook today for 2 hours, or like we're not having, like, or we're going out to eat and we're not going to have food for us, or like somebody has to clean the kitchen, someone has to do the laundry. So, like, my nights do feel full, but I also know that I'm not using my discretionary time at the highest level. Like, Caitlin and I have been having conversations, at the 2 month mark is when I started getting back into rock climbing and started, like, having the itch to have more discretionary time. And I've done that for about a month, and it's basically, Caitlin has been telling me that she's running on empty because she, like, doesn't feel like she has any discretionary time because Lily is so fussy and so needy. So definitely a change that we have to make is I need to limit the amount of discretionary time I have to help support Caitlin more, help take care of Lily more, especially now that she's going back to work and she's going to be working for, full 40+ hour week. I gotta pull my load more, not just in the chores of our household, but in the actual, like, who is the person sitting with Lily, taking care of Lily, making sure that she's not screaming her head off and not falling off something.
Yeah. There's like a curve of life, I feel like, where it's like 0 to you get married is you just have the time in the world, like everything. You have so much time. And then you get married, and
the sweet spot is, you graduated and then immediately got married, right?
Yeah.
So you missed this stage of life. The sweet spot is when you graduate college, or even just graduate high school and have no more homework. And then you get to, like, obviously it was a tough transition for me, and I would assume for you as well, to, like, start working like 8 to 9 hours a day, like, nonstop. Yeah. Like, that's a difficult transition, yes. But I can't tell you how freeing it is, like, at 5 p.m. to go home and just have this urge, like, you should be doing something, and realizing, no, I don't have homework anymore. Like, I'm at home. I'm off the clock. Like, this is amazing.
I think, the closest I came to that was when I was, like, here before we got married, engaged, like, that summer where I didn't have a job was, like, but even then I was so busy with doing stuff that it was fun, almost discretionary fun, but was, like, helping the house be a better house.
Do you like how you asked me, you being the time oriented, scheduled man that you are, you said, how many hours of discretionary time that you have? And I proceeded to ramble for 5 minutes to tell you, I don't know, but it feels like it's too much because Caitlin is having too much of a struggle taking care of Lily by herself. Also, if you want to make note of it, at the 24:30 mark, I accidentally just hit my microphone with my hand. So if you want to scrub that out in the edit, Caleb, I'd appreciate that.
We'll see about scrubbing it out. We'll see about it. Yeah. The reason I ask is because there's obviously, like I was saying, a bell curve of, like, you go through life and then you're like, busiest time and no discretionary time is, like, right now for you at least. I mean, I'm just assuming that when the child is, like, 5,
Lily.
10.
Lily.
Yeah, Lily, when she's like in the middle of her like elementary years, like you'll probably have a little bit more because the child Lily can like self-regulate much better.
But what happens if we have a baby when she's at that age?
Well, that's true. Yeah, you'll just keep living in a state of, well, still, even then, at that point, you would have done this already once, and so you kind of know. I don't know if you could get a much more fussy baby than Lily. I'm not really sure if you could. You?
Like in theory, yes. Like we know that. So we know a couple who had a baby, and their baby just like they weren't like, what's the word? They weren't being hyperbolic when they said their kid screamed all the time. Like 24 hours in a day, their kid was probably screaming 18 plus of them. And this just went on
Wow.
for like the first year of their child's life. They're good parents. They tried, everything under the sun. And it just was the textbook case of colicky baby. Don't know why. It's just happening.
Wow.
And
That's crazy.
so like, yes, in theory, as far as, where we are in the average, based off what we're reading and what we understand, we have an above average fussy baby. But yeah, like people tell us, they're like, oh, at least you had your hard one the first time. And it's like, yeah, we hope this is our hard one the first time. And
Yeah, that'd be rough if there's worse than that.
yeah.
18
And so
out of 24.
there's definitely a valid point to what you were saying, that like we will have done it once. Something that I think that is something that was helpful for those 3 days that she was calm is that it gave us hope, and it gave us a break, and it gave us a chance that like to know, like people keep saying, the phrase, this too will pass, like this season is going to pass. And that's true. Like I keep telling myself that, I keep telling Caitlin that, but when you haven't seen it pass yet, there's something it's like missing. You're like, there's still that little bit of doubt where it's like, I don't know, I haven't seen it pass yet. And so I think as difficult as it will be to have more kids, and have, not just, whatever, 5 years down the road, let's say we're going along as we hope to have more kids. We're on our third kid, Lily's 4 years old. Then we'd have like whatever, a 2-year-old, and then a baby. Like that's so much more. Even if the baby is easier.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if the baby is the future child is easier than Lily is right now, it's still so much harder because there's three kids to manage. I said that to Michael at Thanksgiving. Michael's our, I guess he's our, I don't even know how he's related to us. He's Caitlin's cousin's husband. I was about to say cousin-in-law, but he's cousin-in-law to Caitlin. So I have no clue how he's actually related to us. But he's in the family. And they had their third child 1 month before we had Lily. And so everyone, is obviously oohing and ahhing over all the babies, and as obviously because they're a blessing and they're awesome. But we just have the one baby, and that's all our focus is on this one baby. And then I look over at Michael. Hannah's holding their baby while everyone's oohing and ahhing over it, and Michael's like keeping their 5-year-old and their 2-year-old entertained and busy and making sure that they're not, destroying themselves or something in the place that we're at. And I just looked at him and I was like, do you remember when you just had one and there was only one to take care of? And he just like looked at me so blankly and was like, no, I do not. And so, yeah, I can only imagine when our next child is born, if and when our next child is born, we'll be in the hospital, and it won't be, this is our entire family unit. It'll be, okay, we have our new baby here, but Lily's somewhere else in the world. Like, it's definitely going to get.
Wow. Yeah, especially if you want a whole quiver full of arrows.
Quiver full, baby.
Like that. Yeah, that's certainly. I definitely forgot about the nature of having kids and how having more means more work in a way. It's more fun for sure, but it's also there's things coming along with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as if you think about it along a career journey as well. When you start out your career, when I'm starting my new job at Wells, I feel overwhelmed and like, how can I take on any more responsibilities? I don't even know how to do the basics of what I need to do right now. Is, put that on steroids. That's what it feels like to have Lily. And I can't even fathom right now, just like at my job, I can't fathom leading a meeting. Eventually I will, because I will get experience. Like if I stay in that role and if I apply myself and I keep learning, I will be leading meetings at some point. And I'll feel some level of autonomy, like know what to do. I know what to do in my day. I suppose the same will happen with kids. Like I can't fathom having 4 kids between the ages of 10 and 18. But like maybe one day, Lord willing, like we'll learn to do it well. We gain our experience. 10 years, 20 years into parenthood, it doesn't feel as chaotic as it does right now. But literally, you have more work to do. It just might feel more manageable.
Yeah, and the saying is true that God gives us grace for the day that we're given, and obviously those things, I can't fathom being a parent right now. Hopefully, we'll be in 2 months.
You are
months.
A parent.
Well, you know what I mean.
A parent with a child outside of the womb actually having to interact with a child.
Yeah, there's no, the most I do right now is make sure the house is in order. I'm renovating the bathroom. There's not much tangible going on right now. No showers or anything there's just nothing is affecting me right now as it is you. Well, I think, is this a good chance to guys, we're going to attempt a outro.
Ooh.
Personalized. Is this a good time?
Yeah, just like you started anew with reading the intro as we came in.
Yep. Yeah, it's a new deal. So we'll try it out. I'm just going to steal this from LinkedIn, as I do, because I didn't write anything. Well, guys, each week we are sharing our unique perspectives and opportunities in life, and we want to offer our take regarding current events, whether it is in our own lives or things going on in society, culture, and whatever else is on our minds. And so we may not be experts, but we're definitely not afraid to share our thoughts and have some fun along the way. So I hope you've enjoyed this 4th episode of Season 2, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Well done.